Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while and a lot has happened. Last week we held elections across the country, many seeing this as a test of Keir Starmer's leadership. I think it's safe to assume that this was a disastrous showing for the Labour Party. Hartlepool was the main focus and it was an appalling result. The party lost council seats across the country whilst the Tories made gains. The North East was especially bad for Keir Starmer. The results show that traditional heartlands continuing to swing towards the Tories. The problem was not just losing votes to the Conservative Party, but also losing votes to the Liberal Democrats, the Greens, and people staying at home. The Greens had an amazing result in Bristol as they came out on top, becoming the largest party. Labour have hemorrhaged votes on all sides. To me, I think it's very clear that Labour are far away from any chance of forming a government. The party did do well in some areas such as the Manchester mayoral election. Preston increased its seats, and in Wales, Labour increased its majority, which means it no longer relies on support from smaller parties to govern. Sadiq Khan won another clear mandate. Note there was no increase in the size of its victory. What was unique though, that in places that Labour did well, were the candidates themselves, and that the Labour Party had a much more left-wing progressive campaign. Mark Drayford, Corbyn ally and a socialist, was given a clear mandate in Wales. Preston, being famous for its municipal socialist economy, was rewarded by the voters, and Andy Burnham has been a strong voice for Manchester and recently announced his plans to renationalise public transport. These places delivered and continue to campaign on a progressive platform. The rest of the country, due to Starmer's lack of leadership, had no policies, no direction, no competence. Starmer has waged war on the left, alienating Labour's base. People want politicians to get on with the job, and in places like Hartlepool, it's clear why the voters chose the Tories. Boris Johnson got Brexit done, introduced the furlough scheme and the vaccine rollout, whereas Labour have consistently failed to hold the government to account, and it fails to offer an alternative. People voted for something tangible, and currently, Labour offer nothing of the sort. Keir Starmer is unpopular. People don't know what he stands for. In fact, a new poll has shown that Starmer is at minus 48% approval, which is worse than Corbyn at the same point in his leadership. Now, the usual suspects have come out in force and have tried to blame everything but Keir Starmer and his strategy. Many in the commentariat and the front bench have essentially blamed Corbyn and continue to point to the 2019 general election. Let's remember, under Jeremy Corbyn, Labour increased its vote to over 50% in Hartlepool in 2017, and despite a decline, yes, in the vote in 2019, still kept a healthy majority. Keir Starmer, on the other hand, has been Labour leader for over a year and still polls abysmally. Despite what legacy media has been telling you, this has nothing to do with Corbyn or Corbynism, but it's Keir Starmer himself. He has made it clear that the party is under new management and his leadership is miles and miles away from the Corbyn era. Yet not only could Labour build on its support, they actually lost it. Boris Johnson managed to change a pro-EU Tory party into a hardline Brexit one in a matter of months, then went on to win a huge majority. Nobody ever talked about Theresa May. No one blamed any of Corbyn's failings on Ed Miliband, so why is this unique to Jeremy Corbyn himself? Just because Labour suffered a huge loss in 2019, it doesn't change the fact that there are still lack of decent jobs, far too much precarious work, the climate catastrophe hasn't gone anywhere, inequality is still rife, and the rise of automation is still inevitable. The policies of Corbyn are still popular, and that's why the membership overwhelmingly voted for Keir Starmer. Most people don't think about the left or the right, they just want politicians to deliver. Once again, the commentariat and the current leader of the opposition refused to acknowledge this. So what was Keir Starmer's response to the results? Well, in his first interview in the aftermath was a complete car crash, spewing meaningless verbal diarrhea with no hint of self-reflection or responsibility. You can judge for yourself.
But what does change mean in, say, policy terms?
It means stopping as a party, quarrelling amongst ourselves, looking internally and facing the country and setting out that bold vision for a better Britain and changing the things that need changing. And that is the change that I will bring about.
Len McCluskey, Unite General Secretary, says people don't know what you stand for. What is that vision?
Our vision is of a country that ends the injustice and inequality that millions of people face every day. But fundamentally, we have to show that we are facing the country, that we've learnt the lessons of this bitterly disappointing set of results.
What are you going to change over the next few days? What are you referring to?
I will set out what we need to do to reconnect the Labour Party to the voters that have cast their verdict on us last night, particularly in places like Hartlepool. We have changed as a party. We have changed as a party, but we need to go further and we need to set out that strong case to the country, and we have not done that.
So you're going to set out a new policy agenda, is that what you're saying?
I am going to set out a strong case to the country, learn the lessons of the elections that have come in so far, and accept that we must reconnect and rebuild trust with working people, particularly in places like Hartlepool.
I'm talking to you out there who don't consider themselves left-wing. If you're a centrist or a moderate who fully backs Keir Starmer and the direction it's heading in, can you honestly watch that video and still have confidence in it? This isn't the early noughties where slick politicians were the norm. People respond to populists. They kind of like the idea of straight talking. Days later, he sacked Deputy Leader Angela Rayner as the party's chair. His cabinet reshuffle has now promoted some of the worst, dropping soft left MP Annalise Dodds and replacing her with Rachel Reeves, who famously said that the Labour Party needed to be tougher on benefits than the Tories. Starmer has also promoted Jess Phillips, Wes Streeting and other uninspiring politicians. Now, speaking of Rayner, she believed that Hartlepool voted Tory because of immigration concerns. Absolutely clueless. Over the last 5 years, views towards benefits and immigration has changed for the better. The two main issues that have dominated politics is Brexit and COVID-19. We don't need more right-wing reactionary crap. The problem with Labour centrists calling socialists stuck in the past is that they themselves cannot move past 1997. The truth is, Keir Starmer has no policies, no vision, he's shown to have no competency. It feels to me that he's somewhat a transitional leader. His team are not serious about winning at all because, frankly, no one can be that bad at politics. What I think is absolutely clear is Keir Starmer and his team around him do have a political project, but it's not to win, but instead to destroy the left and make sure that socialists are completely purged from the party. Now, I've believed this to be the case for a very long time, ever since he announced his leadership bid. What has and is changing is that people are starting to realise it. The biggest proof of this is the re-emergence of Peter Mandelson, a deeply unpleasant man who still has questions to answer as to why he was spending time with Jeffrey Epstein. It's clear that he's calling the shots. He was the one that signed off on those awful lines that Labour MPs had to follow and is actively involved with the reshuffle. As we can already see, from the election response, the shadow cabinet reshuffle, my prediction is this: he will not change. As I said before, the goal isn't to win, but to reform the party. That means remove the left at any costs. Labour will continue to go soft on the government, and they won't offer any policies or any alternative vision. Whenever the next general election will be, I'm completely confident that the Labour Party will lose more seats. We are in a seismic shift in politics. Just as the Labour Party took over the Liberals nearly 100 years ago as the main opposition, I believe the same is happening, that the Labour Party is slowly dying. But the problem is, there is no viable left alternative to take its place. It's likely that we will live in a one-party state for a long time, unless something really radical changes. Is Keir Starmer destroying the Labour Party? Short answer, in my opinion, yes. If you like this content and you want to see more of it, hit the like button. Make sure you share this among friends and family, but more importantly, subscribe to Turn Left so we can have more independent media.